Salute, man. This is Boxing Nocturnal Thoughts, man. What's happening with everybody out there? Real quick video that I'm getting out the way, man. Lomachenko just won this fight against Jermaine Ortiz. I watched most of it. I watched enough of it. You know, I watched the majority of it. I didn't sit and watch the fight at the time. I was busy doing something else. You know what I'm saying? But I watched the fight and I watched the highlights. I got the gist of it. I dig what's going on. I understand a little bit of the controversy that I'm hearing. You know what I'm saying? Some people felt like Lomachenko lost. They definitely feel like he lost a step or two. He won a unanimous decision in what was, to me, looked like kind of a competitive fight. You still seen, you know, Lomachenko, you know, fighting bigger dudes and not being as spectacular and stellar as he was when he was fighting smaller dudes. But, you know, his resume is pretty decent. We all know he lost his first fight to Salido, who was roughing him up, you know, using some old school, you know, kind of like dirty boxing style, hitting low, fouling, clinching, hurt. He just beat him up. And he won, and, you know, history tried to erase that victory off of Salido, or erase that loss from Lomachenko, because Lomachenko was being advertised as the Matrix, Neo, you know what I'm saying, dodging bullets and everything like that. But he had an impressive comeback. You know, he won against Gary Antoine Russell, and that was a legit win. Gary Antoine Russell said he had some issues with the weight and the scales not being, you know, synchronized or whatever. But he won that fight. Hands down, Lomachenko won that fight. I done watched that fight many a times. And then, you know, he was going on a no mas winning streak where he was making people quit in the corner, like Nicholas Walters and Rigondeaux. And then he had some impressive knockouts on his resume as well, including like Luke Campbell. And then tough fight with Jorge Linares before Jorge Linares went up and got knocked out in the first round. But he knocked down Lomachenko and then got knocked out by Lomachenko. So Lomachenko, you know what I'm saying, was being advertised, and a little bit, to me, when they were saying certain things, better than Mayweather, better than Muhammad Ali, those things obviously were tactics to advertise him. But yes, he was being overhyped a little bit. But when you watch him, you definitely seen the skills he had with the impressive footwork and the impressive angles, and coming in and punching on a straight line, but at the same time being able to hide some of his combinations, and then just throwing very fluid combinations. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people can look good hitting pass or look good when they doing, you know, shadow boxing, but then it don't translate into the ring. Lomachenko had a fan-friendly style that some of the combinations you would see him throw in his, you know, training would translate into the ring. And, you know, at the end of the day, I think he's a great fighter. Then he took on Lopez. Now, it's up to you to make up your mind whether or not you believe he had a shoulder injury going into that fight, or whether you think that fight, you know what I'm saying, demanded a rematch. But when I watched that fight, it looked like to me Lopez took the first 7 rounds without Lomachenko being, without him throwing too many punches. And then you seen him kind of put his foot on the gas pedal the 8th round on. The fight was a little bit more competitive. And then Teofimo Lopez closed out the championship round. 12th round, he came back and made sure he put an exclamation point on his victory. From that point, Lomachenko went and got some surgery, or had pictures taken from him in the hospital that he got surgery. And he came back strong against Nakatilia, the tall Japanese dude, or Asian dude if he's not Japanese, the same dude that Teofimo Lopez struggled with. So that made it impressive. And that dude had just came off of an impressive fight where he got knocked down and dropped, got back up and knocked down his opponent. Forget who he was fighting, but it just showed you that he did have heart and some grit. He couldn't do the same thing with Lomachenko. So it looked like Lomachenko maybe had a shoulder injury for real and was coming back, you know, mended, bigger, better, and stronger. Then he fought against Richard Comey. And he had hurt Richard Comey, was trying to tell Richard Comey corner to stop it once he seen Richard Comey's legs wasn't holding him up. Some people thought that was a little bit more of the shenanigans of, you know, him falsely advertising himself like he's just so good that he's telling everybody. And some people said he was being too merciful, that he lost his killer instinct. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, he beat Richard Comey Make of it what you will. To me, he looked impressive against Richard Comey. I've seen other champions do the same thing. I've seen Muhammad Ali have his opponent hurt and then wave to people like, man, stop this fight before I really hurt this dude. I've seen Roy Jones Jr. do the same thing when he was fighting against the Tasmanian dude. Name not gonna come to me right off the rip. It's in there. But you know the Tasmanian dude that broke his neck and had to shoot. You know what I'm talking about. But Roy Jones was fighting him and had him hurt. And he waved to people, come stop this fight. He waved to the referee, stop this fight, man. This dude is done. And the referee went ahead and said, no, I'll finish him off. And he finished him off. So it's kind of the same thing I looked at Vasily Lomachenko, high-tech Lomachenko, you know what I'm saying, with Richard Comey. Then, of course, you had this whole little Ukraine situation going on with Russia and Vladimir Putin. Some people say some things like it's not a real war, or they say he's not on the front lines. I wouldn't expect for Lomachenko to be on the front lines in a war. Like him and Alexander Usyk, they say they was there more for morality support. Whatever they doing that's in service, then it is what it is. I salute it. And I don't expect them to be on the front lines. But me personally, you know what I'm saying, I had a father who was in the Vietnam War, and I know when he came back from the Vietnam War, he got a lot of people that hated on him, and people said that the Vietnam War wasn't real. There was a bunch of baby killers, had people, you know what I'm saying, throwing eggs at him. So I don't like when anybody can look at any situation like that, whatever you believe, you know what I'm saying, keep it to yourself, in my opinion. If you got something negative to say about something that's going on, if it's a possibility that the war is real and he's over there doing any kind of support he can, then I just give him a proper salute and leave it at that. He comes back, Alexander Usyk comes back and fights against Anthony Joshua, wins that fight. He comes back and he has a fight against this Jermaine Ortiz. And to me, it makes sense. He had some time off. This was a tough fight. This kid was undefeated. I can look at this dude and tell he was strong. He had some speed. He had some boxing wherewithal. And to me, it was a great tune-up fight. If you can consider it, that was a great tune-up fight to go into a fight with Devin Haney. Devin Haney gets into the ring as a champion and challenges Lomachenko, because we all know that Devin Haney was in pursuit of Lomachenko before the whole franchise belt came into existence and messed up the whole thing, right? And went and fought Teofimo Lopez. Now Devin Haney is undisputed after defeating George the Ferocious Kambosos 2 times in hostile territory in his backyard against all odds. So Devin Haney is still in the mindset of a hunter, a predator, and a champion, at the same time chomping at the bits to get Lomachenko to take care of any unfinished business, to really put a stamp, to really clarify, to really put an exclamation point on being undisputed, not unanimous, not email champion, but undisputed champion. And in my mind, it's because George the Ferocious Kambosos, even though he's a tough fighter, he's still not of that caliber of those guys. He caught Teofimo Lopez slipping, and he got knocked down. People forget, when he fought Teofimo Lopez is just the type of person, unbeknownst to me, but it comes in, he's this type of person, it's hard for him really to separate what's going on in his personal life and not let it translate into the ring. Like when he fought against that big, tall dude, I said Nakatiya, but that's not his name. Whatever the big Japanese or Asian dude is, when he fought him, it was a tough fight for him. And it was supposed to be a showcase fight. And then when he finished fighting that fight, he said he was having all these situations in his family life with his wife and his family not accepting it, whatever the case may be, but it just played a part in him being prepared for the fight. That was his issue. And then he said, you know, fighting a tall fighter like that was an issue. Like, Dad, no more tall fighters. Either way, when he fought George the Ferocious Kambosos, he had other issues in his personal life, his family life, and it somewhat translated into the fight. And he also had some health issues, he was saying, because he couldn't make the weight. He was killing his body. He had some kind of issues with his breathing, his esophagus or whatever. That's the ongoing joke. But he had some issues with his asthma. He was also getting punched in the stomach by the Mountain from what is that? Not, I was going to say Lord of the Rings, not Lord of the Rings. What is that show? The Kingdoms and all that. I forget because I'm not a huge fan. But y'all know what I'm talking about. You know, the Mountain. You know what I'm saying? He's a huge dude. And that's when he's getting ready to box and everything like that. Game of Thrones, that's what it is. The mountain from the Game of Thrones. It's punching him in his stomach, you know what I'm saying? Like, just Ryan Garcia body challenge type punch in the stomach. Like, I'm just gonna sit here and embrace, and you're just gonna get the biggest wind up you can and punch me in the stomach. He let him do that before he goes and fight George Kambosos. George Kambosos called him slipping. And George Kambosos is a tough fighter, but he's not the high caliber, elite caliber that we wanted to see with the undisputed title. He wasn't as good, to me, he wasn't as good or great as Teofimo Lopez. Teofimo Lopez just had his issues. He just had a bad night in the office. He did try to mount a comeback. It was a close competitive fight, but George the Ferocious Kambosos won against Teofimo Lopez, no doubt about it. But it was just one of those things. He was a better man. He was prepared. He caught him slipping. He was an underdog, and he came in there and he took the belts that he did have. You know what I'm saying? And then you gotta look at Teofimo Lopez's performance against Lomachenko. Was it a hurt shoulder? We don't know. I don't know. But Teofimo Lopez, he's going on to do his thing at the 140 division. You know what I'm saying? My point is this. When I look at the whole lay of everything, when I look at the time off that Lomachenko's had, and he's coming back and he fought a tough fight, and I look at the fight that Devin Haney had against Jorge Linares and Jojo Diaz and Alfredo Santiago and what's his name, Yoriokas Gamboa, in his championship against his 2 fights against Kambosos. What I'm looking at is, this will be the toughest fight for both of these guys. To me, Devin Haney has all the advantages. He's a champion. He's young. He's big. He's experienced and seasoned now. You know what I'm saying? He's faced all the different elements. The only thing is, you know, he has an issue. He might be having an issue getting so big that it's going to be hard for him to make 135. But on the flip side of that, Lomachenko is not naturally good or at his best at 135. That's where he's struggling at 135. So that evens everything out, in my opinion, as far as, you know, it'll look like it'll play out like almost a 50-50 fight. I think that Lomachenko would be Devin Haney's toughest match up to this point, but I also believe that Devin Haney has the experience now. He has the style. He has the size, he has the youth advantage, he has the speed advantage. He's seen Lomachenko defeated by Lopez. He's seen him defeated by Salido. He's seen him struggle a little bit with this latest fight with Jermaine Ortiz live and in person. So I think they're going to come up with a game plan where he's going to be ready for the challenge. So what looks like a 50-50 fight, I still have to lean heavily towards Devin Haney to win this fight. But I also acknowledge that this will be the toughest fight for Devin Haney, and it will also solidify to a certain extent his 135, and he can move up to 140, in my opinion. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments below. This is Boxing Nocturnal Thoughts. Happy Halloween. Congratulations to Lomachenko. And congratulations to Devin Haney for just stepping up and being a true champion, and still putting himself in a position where he is like still challenging. You know what I'm saying? He's not on his high horse where he feel like he's too good to even step inside the ring and you know, look like a challenger. He's still in the position of, you know what I'm saying, a hunter. And that looks good for somebody that went over there, took a crazy deal, had to fight 2 times in this man's backyard, won both of those fights, you know what I'm saying, in dramatic fashion, in impressive fashion, should I say, and then still challenging Lomachenko in the way he's challenging him. That's just making Devin Haney look like a true champion, and I salute